Oh yeah, it's me again. I am out in the countryside just pottering around, and it started to rain, so I found myself underneath a tree waiting for the rain to pass, and I thought I'd take that opportunity to share a bit more about my journey. When I got diagnosed with bowel cancer back in October 2018, I was a bit apprehensive about what all that meant. But what I had been doing for years before that was I've been teaching Reiki, I've been doing Reiki, energy healing and Qigong, spring forest Qigong. So I'm already aware that the body's a vibrational thing in terms of the emotions and the vibration, the frequency we put out is what we draw back in, the law of attraction if you wish. If I'm putting out a state of emotional hurt or depression or pain, then that's what my body's going to draw into it. So all my experiences are then clouded by that emotion that I'm putting out. And also my cells become that state, disrupted. and this is stuff that Bruce Lipton talks about, Abraham Hicks talks about, a lot of different, like Taoism, they talk about your vibration, if that's the right terminology. They talk about what you put out, you get back. So anyway, my coloured glasses, my rose-tinted glasses, were full of resentment and judgment and hurt from my life that I'd had, lived to that point where I was never really happy. I've expressed that I've worked in the corporate world for 15 years, and even though I was reasonably successful at it, I never felt fulfilled in it, and I was never as successful as I thought I should have been or could have been. And those are all judgment things that were in my life that I felt were ever present. Didn't even know any different really. So when I got diagnosed, I had people around me suggesting various things. And there's two books that I had, or I was aware of. One was Louise How to Heal Your Life, where she talks about various ailments in your body and symptoms in your body which mean certain things. And it's a very good book for people who are trying to find different ways of trying to heal, or different ways of healing. It's a bit alternative, but it's working. And the other one was Segal, where she talks about the secret language of the body. And both of them talk about a cancer being something eaten away at the body. For bowel cancer, it was around anger and resentment. Certainly for me, anger and resentment towards the life that I'd had. I felt like my life got taken away from me. I didn't really have much prior to the diagnosis. I didn't really have much authority in my own life. It wasn't very effective in my own life in terms of making things happen. I could get a job, be good at that job, but I was never fulfilled with it, and never felt like I was bringing my full self to the table. I was just doing what everybody else told me to do. Didn't even recognise what that meant in my own life in terms of how I lived out my life. So the anger and resentment I held on to just builds and builds and builds, and this is purely hypothetical, speculative. The amount of people that are suffering from bowel cancer these days is incredible. I'm sure it's a growing number in my own contact with people with cancers, although I don't want to use the terminology of cancer anymore. It's just a dis-ease in the body. Bowel cancer was one of the most common ones. It was crazy. And then there's leukemia and that sort of stuff. But bowel cancer is my experience and what I've picked up on. So I then decided, well, I need to do emotional release to figure this out. So Inner Segal has some very good exercises around how to do a emotional release process from your body, and so does Louise Hay. Louise Hay's affirmations that I picked up and have been using, and I'm surprised at how much they work. I feel better just doing them for weeks and weeks and weeks. Louise Hay's one was that I fully release all of my past. I fill my world with love and joy, and I fully approve of myself. Now I've added a few words in there, but that's what I've been using to reaffirm my status or my belief in myself. I never approved of myself. I was always judging myself against the outside world. I was always comparing, and that's destructive. There's no need for us to compare against other people because we are who we are. We're all on our own individual journey. And the way I always thought about life was certainly over when I first got diagnosed with a head injury back in 2006-7, was that this is my journey. How come some people get to live in the big mansions with the fancy cars when they're born and have this life of success and business is no problem for them, versus somebody else who's born into poverty or somebody else who's born into a way of life with a disability? And I had this resonating thought from those years back, was that everybody's story is useful. Now we can go and watch a movie in a movie theatre and find that story inspirational for what that person went through. But when we look at ourselves, we can't find that inspiration in ourselves to say, actually my life means something, I'm doing something with my life. Even though it might not look what everybody else has got, I'm doing something. So when you read a book and you read about the tribulations somebody else has had, you go, wow, this is an amazing story. So imagine if you wrote your own book of your own life story about the things that you went through without comparison, because everybody's life has challenges in it. But there's no right or wrong or better or worse, or my challenges are more obvious than yours. Everybody's life is different. So I looked at my life thinking, well, that's my own unique journey, but I've only just started to understand what that meant when I got my diagnosis in 2018, October, where I started to realise I wasn't living my story. That's a big deal. Why aren't I living my big story? So that's when the emotional stuff really came up, was why does my life suck, really? Outwardly it looked okay, but internally I was a mess. And what I mean was I started to look at the emotions. The anger and resentment was the obvious place to start looking. Anger, I felt like I had no decision-making ability in my life. I was always there for everybody else. And this is no criticism of the people around me. I felt that way, not their perception of me. I felt that way. So I had to become very real with my emotions and my perceptions. The resentment was everybody always seemed to have better things than me, always had the better opportunities, they had the better cars, the better houses. That sort of thing built up that resentment inside of me. Now with the emotional release, I've done a number of different types of things. One of the most important ones was I just blubbered. I cried lots. I would find somewhere quiet in nature and I would just cry, or I'd go and lay on my bed, pull my pillow over my head and just cry. And cry until that bout of emotion came out. That was one way. The other way was the affirmations, which I've already mentioned. So I say those every day, 3 times a day, and I still continue to say them. They have more meaning for them now, and more, I don't have to say them as much. I only say them once a day now, but there's more meaning to them because I understand what I'm meaning, because I've got through a lot of the junk and self-beliefs and thoughts that I had around that terminology. So that was the other way. Another way was nature. You'll see me doing a lot of my videos in nature now because it's an important part for me in terms of grounding, because there's some videos on YouTube and Facebook and stuff about the science behind grounding, and I encourage you to go and have a look. Our bodies need to touch the ground, and if we don't, our body gets out of balance. Simple terminology, but that's what's happening. So before I got diagnosis, I was driving tractors, so I was using shovels, and I was digging drains and putting cloth down and stop banks and on the dirt every day, and my health improved as I was doing that work, stepping from the corporate world where I was in an office all day into the outside world where I'm using my body. It's my nature. I'm my body type as it needs to be used, and I need to be in nature for me to be healthy and happy. When I started taking the choices in my life to do that, my emotions started to come better. I felt more content. So grounding is really, really important for getting your own health back, your balance. The other thing I would do is I'd go to the ocean and I'd give a gratitude and appreciation to the ocean for helping me heal. The ocean heals, and then I'd swim every day in the ocean to ask the ocean to take my emotions away and put them into a more useful place where they can be used for the better. Transmuting energy, a negative energy inside of me, taking it away. It's just an excess energy. Take it away and use it somewhere it's needed. So there's no right or wrong around that. And when I was in the surf, I would stand there with the waves pounding against me, just letting the emotions come out and visualizing the emotions just visually falling out of my body, especially around the rectum and the colon area where I've got my challenge, or I had my challenge, allowing that to come out. So that's what I did around that part of emotional release, just being in nature. The other thing was I started saying no a lot more. That was a challenge because no's a big word for me. I've never really used no, I've always said yes, but in a reticent and resentful way. Somebody would ask me to do something, I go yes, because that's the expectation I had with my life, was that I was just there to serve others in terms of being a lackey or a servant to them. That's my own perception. That's not the reality they were experiencing, but that's my own perception of how I interacted with that situation. So learning to say no was a big challenge for me because I had never really done it. When I said no, some of my other emotions came up, my baggage came up, and that if I say no, I'm bad. If I say no, I'm not being respectful of the other person. If I say no, then I could be missing out on something. But with my diagnosis and my need to look after myself, no became easier. I had to say no to people. I can't do this, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go on a family trip, I'm not going to catch up with my friends, because I needed to be doing what was right for me, and I needed to be by myself, researching, doing emotional releasing things to make my life better. That's all I could do, because nobody was going to do it for me, and the medication that we have in the system these days is not going to help you remove those emotions. Dr. Bruce Lipton, if you would like to go and look at him, Biology of Belief, he's got an audio CD set, and he's also got a book that you can buy around that. Go and understand that the emotions we put out are what our cells take in, as what tells the body to function. If you put out positive emotions, your body will function in a positive way with positive emotions. The law of attraction, Abraham Hicks talks about this as well. Abraham Hicks, just to add to that, Abraham Hicks talks about being in your vortex, and that is being in the system or the energy of joy. So if you're in a situation that's difficult and challenging, finding something that keeps you in a state of joy. Don't focus on the stuff that's difficult or painful, because that will keep you there. Focus on the stuff that gives you joy, and then once you've got your joy and energy levels, your happiness back up, then when you're a bit more out of the pressure of that situation, you can come back to focusing on what is that situation. Is there something I need to do there? You might even get clarity when you're in the state of joy, more clarity than if you're in the state of pain. So that was very useful. So another way of maintaining your emotional situation is to focus on the good stuff. Watch movies, do things that are enjoyable. For me, I'll go out and talk with people about all sorts of spooky and weird things, and I'll go into the bush and just be in the bush. So it's just that emotional, that's not emotional release, that's more just maintaining your emotions. So emotional release, what else have I done? I've prayed lots for clearing and support. Predominantly when the emotions come up, I will address them. What I've done recently in the last few weeks, and it's a transitional program. It's not about, well, I've got to do it all today because that's all I need to do it all, fix it up today. You never will. Emotions are deep, and they will be a long time coming out. But as I did more and more, I started to get further and further in. My methodology started to refine to where I've got to the point now is that I'm starting to look at the triggers that I have in other people. That go off when I interact with other people. So a trigger is somebody will come to me and say, I don't know, what's an example, Derek? Say something along the lines of, I want you to do an event with me. And I'll go, oh, why don't I want to do that? Now, there might be something between me and that person, or there might be something about that event that I'm not so keen on. And I'll understand what is that trigger inside of me that's going off. And often it's my own story that I've been telling myself over my lifetime. An example of that is, do this event, and I'll go, oh, I don't want to inside. And then I go, but I'll feel like I'm letting them down, and I feel like I should. It's not the right answer. So what I'm doing now is sitting there and going, what's that triggering in me? So the expectation is, the situation is, the trigger is the person's asked me to do something I don't want to do. How does that relate to me? Well, I don't want to do it. Well, why don't I want to do it? Well, because it means I've got to go and do something, or I have to do what they tell me to do. And a lot of my stuff is, I've been told, I react to people telling me what to do. I don't like it. And it's only because I lost, and that's the next step of the point. The reason why I don't like being told what to do is because I lose all power in terms of what I can do. In terms of, and what that means is lack of self-worth. I don't believe I can turn around and talk back to that person and say, actually, I don't want to do that, but I'm happy to do this. Does that make sense? Now, that's just a healthy conversation, but in my life, I haven't known how to do healthy conversations because of my own perceptions that I have inside of my own body about what level of worth I have and my ability to interact with other people. So when I realise that I've got the ability to turn back and talk to that person, discuss something, and so that I get a benefit from it, all of a sudden the trigger that person set off in me dissipates. There's a chance for me to make a situation better for me and for them, because I'm contributing, they're contributing, something creates. That's what life's about, is creating cool things. So my ability to understand my emotions and work through my emotions have become greater as I've taken those initial crude steps of just figuring out what my emotions were and dealing with the past. Now I'm at the point of being in the now. What is the triggers that are going off around me now? Where does that come from? And how can I make that better for me so that I can move forward? Simple process. Most of healing is, but it's just us humans want to complicate it. So emotional release. What I would look at is if you are in a situation, we're in a chronic situation of disease, cancer, whatever, arthritis, go and look at alternative things. Look at Louise Hay's book, How to Heal Your Life. Look at Segal's book, The Secret Language of the Body, and look at what some of the suggestions or contributing factors could be to your health situation. Do the affirmations, have a look at them. That's a huge step. Start doing those, get into nature. Keep it simple, get into nature and do what you can when it comes up. Don't try and have this perfect model of how it all must look and I've got all my things sorted out, because then it becomes an intellectual exercise, not an emotional exercise. It needs to be the raw emotion. Key, always relate it back to you. To you. Not to we, to everybody around us, but to you. What are my thoughts and feelings about this? Without judgment. If you start judging whether that's right or wrong, you're not going to get the emotions out and deal with them. The rightness and wrongness of it can come later on when you're healthy. Just be real with your emotions and get those out of your system, because being real is what you need. Don't judge yourself. Judgment is a really, really strong thing. I know this because one of the symptoms of, one of the possible contributing factors for, according to Segal's book, around colon cancer, is anger and resentment and holding on to old beliefs and dysfunctional beliefs and comparing with others and judging others. I was so good at judging others. Oh, one of the best. Even a person that's been genuine in front of me, I'd still judge in some way. My career was set up to judge. I was an auditor. I'd go in and judge the system and see the weaknesses and the failures of the people that are doing the job in the systems. My whole life was about analysing errors and being critical. I knew that was not good for me, but so hence I left my career when my injuries came along. I couldn't do it anymore. It was wrong for me. So I was set up to judge. It doesn't work. So for me, figuring out judgment and not judging myself anymore, because I can't judge myself anymore. I'm in a situation where I need to get out of it. You can't judge and say, oh, there's a better solution. You've got to have the best solution. Just do what's right in front of you, because that's all you can do. So don't judge, just do. Let that emotions out. Be raw and real with yourself and deal with it. And don't judge yourself if you're out with people and you start bawling and crying. I wanted to go and see somebody about plant medicines, and I had a conversation with somebody that triggered a whole lot of things in me, and it cracked me open. I had felt my emotions building for 3 or 4 days. I wasn't sure what they were, but I knew something was coming. Anyway, that conversation triggered in me a reaction, and it cracked me open to start crying. In that opportunity, I said, I'm also going to release everything else that's hurting me at the moment. So I bawled. I was in a vehicle parked in a parking lot in a town, and I just cried for about 15 minutes. And deep stuff, the stuff that comes from deep down inside your abdomen. For me, pertinent, because that's where my situation was. So I let it come out and cry, and then I had to go and meet somebody straight after that. I didn't care, because I'm being real with who I am and what I need to get through. I do worry, well, not worry, but I'm concerned about how I portray myself to other people, in terms of I want to be real and authentic and not create discomfort with them. But I'm dealing with my life. If somebody can't deal with me crying or having red, watery, bloodshot eyes because of the situation I've just been through, I can't control that. I can't control anything outside of me apart from me and my situational state. I came into that person for that meeting. I cleaned myself up as much as possible in terms of getting my energy back to a state. I went and listened to some music to get my, because we had an initial meeting, then I had to go back. In between, I went off and listened to some music that inspires me and just chills me up, makes me feel happy. And then I went back all real and said, yeah, thanks for that meeting. Sorry about the initial part. Well, I wasn't sorry. I had gone through an emotional situation. I'm back here now, let's talk. The person was very open to what I'd said to them. So anyway, be raw with your emotions and be real for you, and only control the things that you can control around you. Don't control the world around you, because all you can do is control how you interact with it and the way you're feeling. Anyway, hopefully from that video there's some information that you can use. Go forth, conquer your emotions by understanding your situation, your health situation, understanding your own emotions. Even for those people who've just got triggers in their lives, understand where these triggers are and figure out how it relates to you and why you feel that way. And I guarantee all of the triggers in your life that are setting you off are a result of your own interpretation of how you live and your own belief system, your own values, your own standards. There's a lot of talking for you. Anyway, it works. That's the end message I want to leave you with. It works. Go and do what you need to do. Don't do it perfectly, just do what you need to do and trust yourself, because letting go of your past emotions and judgments will heal you. Anyway, bye for now. The sun's come out, back to work. Ka kite.